June 5th, 1944. 22:47 hours. Portland Harbor, southern England. The rain has stopped, but the mist hangs low, clinging to the steel hulls of the invasion fleet like a cold, wet shroud. Floodlights sweep across a forest of ships, destroyers, transports, and landing craft, each humming beneath the tension of what tomorrow will bring. Engines cough, welders hiss, ropes slap against metal. The entire harbor feels alive, as if the sea itself is holding its breath. On the deck of LCVP PA-26-412, a small figure crawls beneath the bow ramp, boots scraping against damp planks. His name is Chief Motor Machinist Mate Walter Red Hansen, 34 years old, Nebraska-born, and invisible to history. He wipes a smear of grease across his sleeve and squints up at the stubborn hinge plate refusing to sit flush. Inside the cramped hull, Red can hear the muffled chatter of infantry from the 29th Infantry Division loading onto nearby craft. Young voices, nervous voices, some practiced German phrases, others tighten helmet straps, others simply stare at the dark water. Hansen mutters under his breath, tightening one more bolt. A metallic pop echoes. Too loud, too sharp. He jerks back instinctively. It's the sound of a hinge bracket flexing under pressure it shouldn't have. He tries again. The steel groans, barely noticeable to anyone who hasn't spent 12 years listening to engines and weld seams the way farmers listen to weather. But to Hansen, it's as clear as a warning bell. He slides out frowning. This hinge design is new, installed in a hurry after reports of older ramp systems seizing in rough seas. Engineers had improved waterproofing, added reinforcement, but in doing so, introduced a new problem. Under sustained wave slap, the forward pressure could warp the ramp channel, causing it to jam. If that happened tomorrow under fire, the troops inside wouldn't get out. He stands brushing off sawdust and grit and waves over Seaman Allen, his assistant. "Bring me the lamp," Hansen says, "and my wrench, the long one." Allen hesitates. "Sir, we've already passed inspection." "I know what I heard," Hansen replies. And he does. He's heard it in the Solomons at Tarawa. At every place the Higgins boats earned their reputation, when a ramp jams even once, men die, drown, burn, get cut down while trapped in a wooden box. Hansen crouches again, tapping along the bracket with a practiced knuckle. Kung, kung, kung. Then thunk, there. The hollow ring of tension. He turns to Allen. "Get Lieutenant Barrow over here." Minutes later, Lieutenant Thomas Barrow, the boat group commander, arrives, slicker dripping, irritation on his face. What's the holdup, Chief?" "This ramp is going to jam tomorrow." Barrow exhales slowly. "All ramps have passed engineering tests." "With respect, sir," Hansen says, "the sea doesn't care about tests." Barrow kneels, listens to Hansen's explanation, taps the hinge himself. He hears nothing. Most wouldn't. "Chief, we've got over 200 boats in this convoy. We can't start tearing them apart." Hansen's jaw tightens. He lowers his voice. "Sir, look at the surf forecast. If the wind kicks up out there, this hinge is going to bow inward. They won't be able to drop the ramp. You'll have a platoon banging on the damn thing with rifles while MG-42s chew through the bow." The lieutenant's expression shifts. He's seen what German machine guns do. "What do you propose?" Barrow asks. Hansen already has the answer. He always does. 2 lateral braces across the inner hinge plate. We weld them into the ramp frame and reinforce the lower locking pins. It'll redistribute the wave pressure. Barrow stands. "How long?" Hansen looks toward the rows of boats, toward the black stretch of water beyond the harbor lights. "For one boat, 20 minutes. For all assigned to our sector?" He hesitates. 4, maybe 5 hours? If we work ourselves bloody." Barrow looks at him steadily. "Do it." Within minutes, the motor pool becomes a frenzy. Hammers ring, torches flare, sparks cascade off hulls like fleeting orange stars. Hansen works faster than anyone, sleeves rolled up, face streaked with grit, shouting measurements, slamming braces into place. A few soldiers watching from the pier ask what's wrong. Hansen answers without looking up. "Just making sure you boys get to the beach alive." Wave after wave of metal clanks fill the night air. Boats lined for inspection are pulled aside. Crews rouse from their bunks to help. The waterproofing officers, initially irritated, soon join in after a quick demonstration. Hansen shows them how the hinge bows under simulated wave impact. By Orlo 3, 10 hours, the first boats shove off to staging positions. Hansen wipes sweat from his forehead. His hands tremble from exhaustion, but the hinge brackets no longer flex. The ramps now fall with a clean, solid click. Alan approaches him quietly. "Chief, if you hadn't caught it." Hansen doesn't answer. Instead, he stares out at the faint horizon, where the darkness begins to soften into the first gray hints of dawn. Somewhere out there, in just a few hours, men will charge into fire, and they will need those ramps to fall. He whispers to no one, "Let's hope it was enough." June 6th, 1944. EOR 3, 58 hours. Mid-channel, English Channel. The sea is restless. Dark swells rising and collapsing under a heavy sky, the wind pushing cold spray across the decks. The invasion fleet stretches to the horizon. Thousands of ships, their lights dimmed, their engines beating like an iron heartbeat beneath the night. Onboard LCVP PA-26-412, Chief Red Hansen sits on an ammo crate beside the starboard gunwale, rubbing warmth back into his stiff hands. Hours earlier he was welding. Now he is shivering. Salt water coats his mustache. His gloves are soaked, but his eyes remain fixed on the ramp hinge, watching how it flexes with each wave. Every groan of metal makes his stomach tighten. Around him, the infantry of Company A, 116th Regiment, 29th Infantry Division brace as the deck bucks under them. Water sloshes around their boots, helmets clink, rifles knock against one another. Some men talk quietly, others clutch rosaries, photographs, or dog tags. Private Bill Turner, barely 21, leans toward Hansen. "You really think the ramp will hold, Chief?" Hansen answers without looking away from the hinge. "It's gonna hold." But in truth, fear sits in his throat. If even one weld failed, the ramp could jam. And in seas like this, the boat could take water faster than the bilge pumps could spit it out. A sudden wave strikes the bow with a violent wham, and the entire craft shudders. The infantry grab whatever they can. A few curse under their breath. Hansen moves instantly, crawling toward the hinge, pressing his ear to the cold steel like a doctor listening to a heartbeat. Nothing strains, nothing pops. The reinforcement bars absorb the impact exactly as he hoped. He lets out a slow breath. Ahead of them, the destroyer USS Satterley fires a signal flare that streaks across the sky, illuminating a ghostly world of ships in black water. Moments later, her guns thunder, sending shells toward the French coast. The muffled boom rolls across the waves. A corporal mutters, "Showtime." The coxswain, Quartermaster First Class Ray Dalton, glances down from the steering compartment. "Red, tie yourself in. We're going full throttle." Hansen nods and fastens the rope around his waist. He feels the boat rise as Dalton guns the 3 Gray Marine 225 HP engines, the hull slapping violently against the surface. Spray hits them like icy needles. For a moment, the entire boat seems airborne before crashing back down. Soldiers groan. The ramp hinge moans. And Hansen listens, every second, waiting for the sound that would mean disaster. Across the water, in the faint emerging light, the silhouettes of Normandy's bluffs begin to take shape. German artillery flashes like angry stars along the coastline. The thunder of bombs from Allied aircraft echoes above. Turner wipes water from his eyes. "Chief, where exactly are we landing?" "Omaha," Hansen replies. The private nods nervously. He's heard the rumors. Steep cliffs, interlocking MG-42 nests, mined beaches. Dalton shouts from the wheelhouse, "2 minutes out." Men scramble to final readiness. Bayonets fixed. Webbing tightened. Faces pale. Hansen moves to the ramp controls, steadying himself against the violent waves. He wraps his hand around the lowering lever, the one that will determine whether these men live long enough to take 2 steps off the boat. Another wave smashes the bow. The ramp thuds, the hinge flexing. But there's but holding. The outer surf grows rougher as they enter shallow water. Shells splash down around them, sending geysers of white foam skyward. One explosion rocks the port side, nearly throwing Hansen off his feet. Dalton yells, "Hold on! 30 seconds!" Tracer fire snaps overhead. A man in the front rank ducks instinctively. Hansen crouches, gripping the metal frame. Water pouring over him. His heart hammers. He's thinking not of glory, not of medals, but of the weld seam he installed 5 hours ago, in the rain, under a flickering portable lamp. Another explosion closer. The boat veers, then straightens. 10 seconds, Dalton screams. The sound of machine gun fire intensifies. The bow hits an underwater sandbar, and the entire craft lurches forward with a brutal jolt. Hansen throws the lever. The ramp gives a metallic groan. Flexes, Anki judders, and slams down into the surf with a perfect, clean, unstoppable crash. The soldiers surge forward, shouting, splashing into chest-deep water. Hansen exhales, his entire body shaking. The hinge held. It held under pressure, under fire, under surf, under weight. Dozens of men survived the first seconds of Omaha because of one brace, one weld, one decision made in a cold harbor hours before history changed forever. But the story isn't over. Not yet. Because down the line, another LCVP is in trouble. And the man who fixed one ramp must now face the consequences of saving many. June 6, 1944. Oro 6:41 hours. Omaha Beach, Easy Red Sector. Smoke crawls across the shoreline like a living thing. Thick, choking, swirling in the wind as artillery shakes the earth beneath it. Bodies float in the breakers. Helmets bob among splintered planks. The cries of wounded men cut through the chaos like torn fabric. Hansen wipes salt water and sand from his eyes as LCVP PA-26-412 reverses off the beach, engines roaring beneath the din. Dalton shouts to maintain heading, but the surf is punishing, throwing the boat sideways as German fire rakes across the water. They've barely disengaged when a flare erupts overhead, green arching down through smoke. Dalton stiffens. Distress signal, close. Hansen squints through the spray. About 200 yards to their east, another Higgins boat wallows in the breakers, listing sharply. The ramp is stuck halfway down, forming a deadly barrier. Men inside are trapped, pushing against the jammed steel, their shouts swallowed by gunfire. Hansen's gut drops. He knows instantly what happened. The hinge he warned them about, the same flawed bracket he reinforced last night, has failed on this craft. The channel frame has bowed inward, trapping the ramp like a clenched jaw. Dalton calls down from the wheelhouse. "Red, you seeing this?" Hansen doesn't answer. He's already untying his rope. Turner, crouching beside him, yells over the chaos. "You're not thinking of going over there, are you? They're under fire." Hansen snaps back. "So are we." He jumps before anyone can stop him. The water hits like ice and stone, knocking the breath from his lungs. Waves hurl him sideways. He kicks, claws, fights toward the sinking craft as machine gun fire snaps overhead like angry hornets. Each stroke burns. Each wave feels like it wants to drag him under. But he keeps going, because he knows exactly what is happening inside that boat. He imagines hands pounding on the steel, men yelling, "Drop the ramp," as bullets stitch the water around them. He's seen it before, in the Pacific. Boats turned into coffins because a hinge jammed at the wrong moment. A shell explodes behind him, sending a column of water skyward. He's thrown underwater, tumbling, ears ringing. He surfaces choking, spitting salt, forcing himself onward. When he reaches the LCVP in distress, he grabs the jagged edge of the ramp and pulls himself up, coughing. Two soldiers inside yank him the rest of the way. One shouts, "We can't get it down. The hinge is stuck." Hansen scans the frame and feels sick. He was right. The lower bracket has folded inward, warped by wave force and poor installation. The ramp hangs diagonally, jammed like a broken jaw. Bullets hammer the hull, splashes erupt around them. Hansen drops to his knees, examines the bracket and yells, "I need a crowbar, anything. Rifle butt, entrenching tool, now!" A soldier hands him an entrenching tool. Another braces the ramp with his shoulder, grunting as incoming fire forces him to duck. Hansen wedges the tool into the warped seam and pulls. Nothing. "Again!" he shouts. He heaves, muscles trembling, arms burning, trying to bend the metal just enough to release the pressure. The ramp groans but doesn't budge. Men shout behind him, begging, praying, pushing against the steel. The MG-42s keep firing. He slams the entrenching tool deeper into the seam. Blood runs down his forearm where shrapnel grazed him. He doesn't notice. All he sees is the hinge. All he hears is metal screaming in protest. He braces his feet, grits his teeth, and pulls with everything he has. A sharp crack splits the air. The bracket gives. Just enough. "Drop it!" Hansen roars. Two soldiers yank the release lever. The ramp crashes down into the surf, water rushing in. The men surge forward, stumbling, splashing, some falling, some crawling, into the maelstrom of bullets and smoke. Hansen watches them go, chest heaving. A corporal turns back. "You coming with us?" Hansen shakes his head. I'm getting this boat out. The coxswain, hunched low behind the wheel, shouts, Chief, we're taking water fast. Hansen leaps to the bilge pump and starts working the manual handle violently. The engine sputters, gurgles, then catches again. He shouts to the coxswain, back us out, keep her straight. The boat begins to reverse, slowly, painfully through the pounding surf. German fire trails them, churning the water, chewing splinters off the hull. Another round slams into the starboard gunwale, spraying Hansen with wooden shrapnel. He doesn't stop pumping, doesn't stop shouting directions, doesn't stop until the boat is finally clear of the deadliest fire zone, engines roaring as the craft limps back toward the open water. Only then does Hansen collapse to his knees, exhausted, soaked, bleeding, but alive. Behind him, the ramp hangs crooked, the hinge warped beyond repair. But dozens of men escaped through it, because he was there, because he knew, because he acted, and because a forgotten mechanic refused to let history swallow another boat full of soldiers. But D-Day is far from over, and Hansen's ordeal is only beginning. June 6, 1944, 09:12 hours. Off Omaha Beach, English Channel. The sky has shifted from steel gray to a bruised, smoky blue as the sun climbs behind the clouds. The roar of the invasion is constant now. Naval guns thundering in intervals, aircraft screaming overhead, machine gun chatter rolling across the wind like tearing canvas. The sea is littered with debris and bodies, the water stained with oil and smoke. LCVP PA-26 412 limps through the surf line, battered but afloat. Dalton keeps one hand on the wheel and the other braced on the console, glancing nervously at the depth gauge as the boat rises and falls over the rolling swells. Hansen crouches beside the bilge pump, working the handle with slow, exhausted strokes. His arms shake. His morale hangs by threads. His uniform clings to him in soaked patches. A strip of shirt is tied around the bleeding scrape on his forearm. Turner, somehow alive, somehow back on this same boat after making it to shore, leans down, shouting over the wind, Chief, you're bleeding through. Hansen ignores him. We holding water? He asks. Turner checks the bilge. No more than usual. Hansen nods, relieved. The immediate crisis is over, but his eyes keep drifting toward the distant chaos on the beach. The black smoke curling upward, the chatter of machine guns echoing in the cliffs. For the first time, he wonders if the ramp fixes he made the night before truly saved anyone, or if it was all just delaying the inevitable. Dalton shouts, Orders from command boat! We're making another run! Hansen's head snaps up. You kidding me? We barely made it out alive. Dalton points at a circling LCT sending signal flags through the smoke. Fresh wave needs transport. We're going back. Turner looks horrified. Chief, we can't. The engine's limping. The hull's cracked, and the ramp still work, Hansen mutters, for now. He pulls himself upright and tests the lowering mechanism. The hinge grinds like an animal in pain, but the reinforcement bars, his reinforcement bars, keep the assembly from folding inward. He sighs, we go. Dalton gives him a look of disbelief mixed with admiration. Red, you don't have to. Hansen returns the look with exhausted calm. Those boys need every boat we got. If ours still floats, she goes. Dalton nods, jaw set, and swings the wheel hard to starboard. The engines roar, struggling but obedient, pushing the boat back into the deadly waters off Omaha. As they accelerate, artillery splashes closer, columns of water rising around them. A shell lands so near the spray blinds half the crew. The concussion slams into Hansen's chest, stealing his breath, rattling the bolts on the ramp assembly. Turner ducks low, shouting, Chief, that hit knocked the port brace loose. Hansen moves immediately, climbing toward the hinge, gripping hot metal as he inspects the brace. One weld is cracked, but holding. Not enough to kill us, he mutters. He hammers the brace with the butt of a rifle until it aligns again. Dalton yells back, 1 minute out! As they approach the beach for the second time, the bodies on the sand become clearer. Some lie draped across tank traps. Others float lifeless in the surf. Smoke from a burning Sherman tank drifts across their path, the heat hitting them like a furnace. Hansen clenches his jaw. You boys ready? He shouts. Turner grips his rifle tighter. As ready as a man can be. The boat slams into the sandbar. The whole hull snaps forward violently. Hansen throws the lever. The ramp groans, trembles, and slams down again. Another wave of infantry charges off the craft. Some fall, some run. Some crawl across the bullet-torn beach, but they make it out. The ramp worked. The hinge held. Hansen exhales, but there is no time to rest. They reverse out once more. 3 hours pass, then 4, then 5. LCVP PA-26-4112 makes 5 additional runs to Omaha Beach. Each time, the hull takes new scars. Each time, the hinge flexes dangerously. Each time, Hansen braces it with whatever he can find. Strips of metal, rifle parts, even a bent shovel that he hammers into place as a makeshift stabilizer. By afternoon, the craft is barely seaworthy. Hansen is beyond exhaustion, nearly delirious, but he refuses to stop. Every soldier they deliver is one more who has a chance of surviving the slaughter. Only at 17:32 hours, when the tide begins pulling hard and the fleet starts to reorganize, does Dalton finally receive orders. PA-26-4112 is to stand down. Withdraw to the transport line. The engines sputter one last time as they limp back to deeper water. Hansen collapses onto a bench, arms hanging limp, face streaked with blood, sweat, and oil. Turner sits beside him. "Chief, you saved a lot of men today." Hansen shakes his head weakly. "They saved themselves. I just kept the door open." He looks down at his hands, burned, cut, trembling. The same hands that welded steel in the night. The same hands that forced open a jammed ramp under fire. The same hands that kept a failing boat alive through the most hellish beach in Europe. Hands that history would never record. Dalton raises his canteen toward him. "To the mechanic who kept us moving." Hansen nods once, silently. As the sun sinks behind the smoke-filled horizon, the engines of PA-26-412 idle softly. One forgotten boat among thousands, carrying one forgotten man whose simple fix changed the course of 100 lives on the bloodiest beach of D-Day. He never asked for recognition, and history never gives him any. But his welds held, his courage held, and that was enough.